In an upcoming video, I'm going to make another one of these roll-around shop carts, and they're mostly frame and panel construction using stub, tenon, and groove joinery. Centered grooves cut on all the frame pieces, and then stub tenons cut on 2 of them, and it nicely fits in that groove. And I've got a special bit that can do that. I can raise it above the router table so that just this top cutter cuts the centered 1/4 inch groove, and then raise it 1/4 of an inch more and cut the stub tenons on the ends of the frame pieces that need them. And it's a nice fit in the groove, and it makes a strong glue joint when combined with a glued in panel. My challenge is that a 1/4 inch MDF panel like I'm going to use is under 1/4 of an inch, and it's not a very good fit in that groove. So they make special undersized bits to make grooves that match man-made panels like my MDF. A much better fit. So when I make my roll-around shop cart, I'm going to keep this bit in my regular router table, and I'll cut centered grooves on all the frame pieces with it. Another challenge is they don't make a matching bit to cut the undersized stub tenons that would fit in this groove. So I have to do that part manually. In this video, I'm going to make a horizontal router table to be able to do that. So I'll make all my centered grooves at the regular router table with the undersized bit, and then I'll bring them over here and be able to cut the stub tenons to match. So in this video, let's see how to make this horizontal router table, and at the end of the video, we'll see how well it works on making those stub tenons. I'll be able to get the top and bottom both from this one piece of plywood, 3/4 of an inch. The top and bottom are both going to be 12 inches deep, 16 inches wide. And I have a special way of cutting. I've raised the blade only enough to cut through the bottom layer of veneer on the plywood just to minimize splintering. And then I'll raise it 2 more times in successive passes. Very little splintering on the bottom or the top. And I need 4 sides, each 12 inches long, 3.5 inches high. And I'll cut them the same way in 3 passes. This will be the back edge of the horizontal router table. It's going to need bit clearance. So in the back of the top, I've measured in 1 inch to center a 1 inch diameter hole. I'll drill that at the drill press with a Forstner bit, and then I'll cut these sides out at the bandsaw. The back piece is also going to need some bit clearance up here at the top. So I'll use the same Forstner bit and just drill half around here. The right side is going to need a 2 1/4 inch diameter hole for my dust collector, and I've already drilled a 1/4 inch hole for the pivot. I'll do that with the small circle router jig that I made in another video. Now on the side pieces, on these inside ends, I want to cut short rabbets to house the front and back pieces. I'll only make these 1/8 of an inch deep and the width of the plywood. Now I can glue the box together. Only the back side. I'm going to leave the front open. I want this to be removable, but I will use it to keep the box square. Next, I'm going to route grooves in the bottom and in the top so that the sides will fit into it, like that. Also going to route grooves across the front and back, but I'll do that after I route the matching grooves in the top. And that's the kind of fit I was looking for. Now I'll glue a masonite cover on the worktop. I made the masonite cover about 1/4 of an inch larger all the way around than the plywood, so now I want to trim it flush. For that I'm going to use a flush trim bit. A flush trim bit has a bearing at the top that's flush with the cutter. The bearing will ride against the plywood while the cutter trims the masonite to match. Now I can glue the bottom and the top on. This front I'm going to leave off for now. I'm going to sand it so it'll be just a snug fit, and I'll put a handle on it. For the back, I'll use 1/4 inch MDF, 8 inches tall, 16 inches wide. For bit clearance, I'll drill 2 holes 1 inch in diameter with my Forstner bit, and then I'll use a scroll saw to cut in between them. And then I'll glue it onto the back. The pivot arm is made of 3 different materials: 1/8 inch masonite, 1/4 inch MDF, and 1/2 inch Baltic birch, and I've cut them 5 inches tall, 16 inches wide. I'm going to start with the 1/4 inch MDF. I've drawn a horizontal and a vertical center line, and it's on those 2 lines I'm going to locate the mounting holes using the base plate from the router. Now I'll drill these over with the drill press for the mounting holes. And now I'll transfer these hole locations to the 1/8 inch masonite to have clearance holes for the screw heads. The base of the small DeWalt router is 4 inches in diameter. So on the 1/2 inch Baltic birch, I've drawn a circle 4 inches in diameter and drilled a 1/4 inch center hole. I'll use that as the pivot with my small circle router jig and cut out that hole as clearance for the base. And now I can glue all 3 pieces together. Now I need to make a curved adjustment slot. I've drilled 2 holes exactly 7 inches from the center each side. I'll use this hole as the pivot for my large circle cutting jig and 1/4 inch bit, and I'll make a curved hole, and that's what's going to allow it to pivot, to raise the bit up and down. Next, I'll cut the outside shape. 2-inch diameter circle at this end, tapering out to these sides, and I'll cut a curve at this end to match this curve. And I'll transfer these 2 hole locations to here, even with the table. And I'll drill holes for hanger bolts. Machine screw threads at one end, wood screw threads at the other, and I'll thread them in. pivot arm mounted to the router base, I've got a 1/2 inch straight bit chucked in the router. I'll turn it on and lower it and let the bit cut a 1/2 inch hole in the pivot arm. I've installed the 2 hanger bolts, and now I can put the pivot arm on top of those. I'll get the router mounted and we'll get set up for a cut. So let's see how well the horizontal router table works to cut a centered undersized tenon to fit this groove. I got my dust collector hooked up, and I'm using this square piece of MDF to make sure my frame piece stays square. Perfect. All right, guys, thanks for watching.